The stranger at the resort. Last summer, my family and I decided to take a vacation to a popular all-inclusive resort on the Mexican coast. We'd been looking forward to it for months. A chance to unwind, soak up some sun, and spend quality time with our two kids, without any distractions from work or daily life. The first couple of days were perfect. The beaches were stunning, the food was excellent, and the kids were thrilled by the pool and the playground. The staff was friendly and attentive, making sure everything went smoothly. But after about 3 days, I started noticing something strange. There was a man who seemed to be everywhere, but never quite fitting in. He wore a brightly colored Hawaiian shirt and a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes, standing alone near the pool or just off to the side of the beach. He didn't talk to anyone or join any groups. He just watched. At first, I thought maybe he was a fellow guest who preferred solitude, but the way he looked at us, especially at our kids, felt different. It wasn't a casual glance. It was intense, almost predatory. One afternoon, my wife was sitting with our daughter near the playground when she noticed the man lurking nearby. He wasn't playing or doing anything normal. He just stood, staring at the kids. Then things took a turn. Later that day, while I was inside getting drinks at the bar, my wife noticed the man approach our room door. When she went to check, the door was slightly ajar. Our keycard, the electronic one we used to enter the room, was missing. She confronted him as he walked away from the hallway, holding the keycard in his hand. He smiled this unsettling grin, but didn't say a word. That's when things got really creepy. One afternoon, I saw him walk right up behind my son near the pool and grab his wrist. It was a gentle hold, but enough to make me freeze. I ran over and pulled my son away. The man turned, looked at me with that same eerie smile, and just walked off without a word. We immediately reported everything to security. They promised to increase patrols and keep an eye out. But that night, when I peeked out our balcony window, I saw the man standing just beyond the pool area. This time, he was holding something small, wrapped in a piece of cloth. Could have been one of our kids' toys, but I couldn't be sure. The next morning, one of the children's favorite toys was missing. My wife also found footprints in the sand near a dense jungle path behind the resort, leading away from the beach. At that point, we decided enough was enough. We packed up in a hurry and checked out early, cutting the vacation short.
Still don't know who that man was or what he wanted.
Was he planning to do something worse? Was it just a freak coincidence that he stole our keycard and followed us around? Or was he scouting us for something more sinister? It's a terrifying thought, but it's true. Even in paradise, danger can lurk just out of sight. Since then, I've been much more careful whenever we travel, especially with the kids.
The locked room. Smoky Mountains cabin.
We'd been planning this quiet getaway for months. After a brutal quarter at work, I booked a 3-night stay in a secluded cabin deep in the Smoky Mountains for my girlfriend and me. No cell signal, no email, no interruptions, just the two of us and the woods. The cabin was cozy. Knotty pine walls, a stone fireplace, a view of the trees that seemed to go on forever. When we arrived, I noticed one of the bedroom doors was locked. I texted the owner before we lost service, and he replied casually, "That room's just for storage, nothing you'll need." Okay, no problem. We unpacked and settled in. That night was quiet, until around 2 a.m. It started as a creak, subtle, almost rhythmic. I figured it was the woods settling. But then we both heard it again, more deliberate this time. A dragging sound, like furniture scraping slowly across the floor, behind that locked door. I whispered, "Did you hear that?" She nodded. Maybe a raccoon or something under the floorboards? I wanted to believe that. We put on a podcast and tried to fall asleep. By morning, it was forgotten. The next night, it was worse. We'd just finished dinner and were playing cards when we heard it again. Thud, scrape, thud. It sounded like something heavy was being moved. My girlfriend got up, walked to the hallway, and pressed her ear to the locked door. "There's someone in there," she said quietly. I felt that cold drop in my stomach. "What?" I heard breathing, slow, deep. She stepped back. "We need to leave." But it was already late. No signal. No town for 20 miles. We locked our bedroom door that night and dragged a dresser in front of it, just in case. At 3:17 a.m., we woke up to a loud crash. The chair we had wedged under the locked door earlier had been flung across the hallway. The door was now wide open. I grabbed the fire poker from the fireplace and stepped closer. The room was dark, musty, with no lights. I reached in and flipped the switch. The room was empty, but not untouched. There were footprints, barefoot, muddy, leading from the window to the inside of the room and out into the hallway. We didn't sleep the rest of the night. At sunrise, we packed up everything in 15 minutes and left without eating. We drove to the nearest diner with service and called the owner. He didn't answer. When we reviewed the photos we had taken on our phones, sunset shots, cute couple selfies, we noticed something strange. In one of the pictures, taken from the front porch, there's a window just behind us. In that window, there's a silhouette, a figure standing completely still, watching. We never went back. I still don't know what was in that room, or why it was locked, but I'll never rent a secluded cabin again. The Morning Watcher. A couple of summers ago, my wife and I took our 14-year-old son to a small beach town on the Gulf Coast of Florida. Nothing fancy, just a quiet resort, a few seafood shacks and miles of shoreline. We were looking to disconnect for a few days and just enjoy some peace. On the second morning, we decided to take a walk along the beach right after sunrise. The sand was cool, the waves were gentle, and hardly anyone was out except a few joggers and a guy metal detecting way down the shoreline. Our son was ahead of us, doing his usual routine, hunting for shells and snapping photos for his Instagram. At one point, I noticed a man sitting up on the dunes a few yards away from where our son was wandering. He looked like a regular beachgoer, cargo shorts, old ball cap, hoodie despite the heat. But something about the way he was angled toward my son set me on edge. I watched him carefully. He wasn't looking out at the water. He was watching our kid. I called out to my son to come closer. The man shifted slightly, stood up, and walked off in the opposite direction, toward the public parking area. We figured he was just some weirdo and shrugged it off. We didn't want to make a scene or ruin the morning. But things didn't end there. Later that afternoon, my wife realized her small zippered purse was missing from our beach bag. She was sure she'd packed it. Just some cash, lip balm, and our room key card. We checked the front desk to ask if someone had turned it in. No one had. They deactivated our room key and gave us a new one, just to be safe. That evening, when we returned from dinner, the light inside our room was on. We never leave lights on. I unlocked the door slowly and stepped in. Nothing looked stolen, no signs of forced entry, but someone had clearly been inside. A pair of my wife's flip-flops were sitting by the bathroom door instead of the closet where she always kept them. One of the pillows was flipped over. Her travel-size body spray was missing. We called hotel security. They checked the logs and said no one had used our replacement key card, which meant someone had used the original, the one that was stolen. We packed up and checked out that night. When we got home, I dug into a few travel forums and discovered something disturbing. Our small beach town has a history of thieves staking out tourists in the early morning, identifying which bags hold room keys or wallets, and then waiting until people go out for dinner or drinks to slip into their rooms and snoop, sometimes just to look around, sometimes worse. I hate thinking what could have happened if we'd come back while he was still inside. Now, no matter where we go, we use a portable door lock. We never leave valuables on the beach, and we never, ever assume it's just a weird guy. Because sometimes, the one watching you in the morning is planning something for later that night.
Cabin 7069.
2 years ago, my wife and I booked our first cruise together. It was a 5-day Caribbean trip with all the bells and whistles. Ocean view room, unlimited drinks package, multiple stops, and evening shows. It was supposed to be our stress-free, no kids, anniversary getaway. For the most part, it was amazing. The food was solid, the weather perfect, and the staff went out of their way to make everything feel first class. But something weird happened on the third night, and it changed how I see cruise ships forever. We were staying in cabin 7069, 7th floor, midship, just down the hall from the elevators. That night, after dinner, we had drinks on the deck and came back to our room around 11:15 p.m. My wife went into the bathroom while I started scrolling through pictures on the balcony. I walked back in, went to grab a t-shirt from the closet, and stopped. The closet door was already open, and one of my wife's dresses had been pulled halfway off the hanger. I figured maybe it fell, or she'd left it like that, but then I noticed one of the drawers was also slightly open, and I swear I remembered closing everything before we left. When I asked her, she said no. She hadn't touched the dress or the drawer that evening. We brushed it off, thinking maybe housekeeping had come through and forgot to close something properly. But here's where it got strange. The next day, while we were in port, we came back from a shore excursion early. The hallway was empty. We swiped our keycard, opened the door, and heard the click of the balcony sliding door closing. Someone had just been out there. I rushed to the balcony, flung open the curtains, and no one was there. Just our 2 chairs and the sound of the ocean. But the door had condensation smears, fresh, like it had just been touched, and one of the towels we had left, neatly folded on the chair, was crumpled and damp. We reported it to guest services immediately. They sent security to check everything and offered to review the hallway footage. Hours later, they told us the footage showed no one entering our cabin besides us. But here's the thing. Cabins like ours have adjoining balconies. There's a divider that separates them, but it's not locked. It's just latched from one side. Anyone from the next room could have stepped across to our balcony while we were gone, slipped inside, and stepped back out when they heard us come in. We asked to switch cabins. They complied. The next day, we were in line at the buffet when I noticed a man standing 2 people behind us, someone I vaguely remembered from our deck, middle-aged, grey hair, wearing the same shirt I'd seen on the balcony 2 nights before. He was staring at my wife. I stared back. He looked down and walked away. We never saw him again after that day. We never got a name, never heard anything more from security. But to this day, I wonder what he was doing in our cabin, if he took anything. If we hadn't come back early, what would have happened? Now, every time we cruise, I bring a portable latch for the balcony, a door stopper and a motion alarm. People think cruise ships are safe because they're full of families, fun and staff on every floor. But here's the truth. Once you're out at sea, help is far away. And remember, fear doesn't go away. It just follows you home.